Geico presents Our Town, Season 2, a 30-minute podcast produced by Best Bart Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks. Geico, 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. Now, here's your host, Andy Ockershausen.
Welcome back to Our Town. This is part 2 with Jim Vance. This is Andy Ockershausen. Jim, the thing that we always see in my mind was Channel 4 with Vance, the sports shows, what you would do with George. It was just incredible. I mean, your chemistry with Michael was unbelievable. And he was not an easy person to get along. Another Philadelphia guy.
George could be a major George could be a major pain in the butt.
That's right. A perfectionist.
But part of what people sometimes found so grating about George was what I figured out right away. George is an unrepentant perfectionist. And as it regards his element of concern, his sports broadcast, his show, he demanded nothing but perfection. There's so many things I admired about George, not the least of them. One of the people I met last Saturday at the Golden Circle Award thing was one of George's interns from back 25 years ago who remembered so well how he used to have to wear a tie every day. I admire George for making his interns come to work every day wearing a tie. You were talking earlier about Felix, you know, respecting his audience, but it's also a matter of respecting the craft, and I appreciate it, and nobody respected the craft more than George. Beyond that, I never knew a harder working man in my life, Andy, than George Michael.
He seemed to be possessed.
Absolutely.
When he was around his own show. Then he did it with the special show. He made the sports world.
Sports
Machine.
Sports Machine. Thank you so very much. Before, George taught ESPN how to do it.
Absolutely.
Because I'll never forget the day I drove into the station and these construction crews in there. Look, what the hell, they had this big crane. The very first satellite was being put up in our parking lot, and it was some people were angry because it took away at least 5 parking spaces, which were at a premium.
Absolutely.
But then I think now, I can't even count the number that we have in there now, but that was George. His foresight was so sharp and so incredible. And then the number of people he brought in, who then went on.
A lot of young people he taught the business to. We hear it all the time.
Lindsay, to this day, sings the praise. Lindsay's audience.
Lindsay Cadillac, I call her.
That's good enough, too, except I call her Lindsay Rolls-Royce.
She's great. There's so many people that went through George.
Yeah.
But the team, and Bob Ryan was such a big part of your interplay with the staff.
Arch. And they all came at about the same time in the early 80s. Bob, George,
and Doreen.
And Arch. Well, Doreen came later. Doreen is now with us 27 years.
Yeah, no, that's incredible.
Well, now let me tell you what's even more incredible. I will never forget, this is a testosterone overloaded set with George, Bob, Arch, and me. Here comes Doreen, this drop-dead gorgeous, if you remember, big
hairdo.
Right. From Philadelphia, just late of Tennessee or someplace, walked in and made it clear on the very first day, don't be punking me out, because I can hang with you guys. I am not going to go to your depths, but I will take you to a higher level. And she never said that, but that was the way that she came.
Performed that way.
From day one, Doreen had the respect of every single one of us, including and especially George, who was the most difficult, because, by then, George and Bob and Arch and I had we had our own little
chemistry.
Boys club.
Was so special.
It was special, and I've got to tell you, Andy, thank you for bringing that up. Few things in my life am I more grateful for than the fact of the people that I've had the pleasure and the honor of working with, especially those folks, George, Bob, Arch, and Doreen. They have elevated me so much, and I thank them, for taking me to new heights, because they are just totally wonderful journalists, but also just really cool
Wonderful people.
Yeah, you want to live next door to them folks. You know what I mean? Well, maybe except yours. I'm not sure about that one.
You're winning everything, and all the talent gets more and more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we used to love the Redskins shows with Jurgensen, who was not a broadcaster, but he was made to feel home as part of the crew, and it all worked. And
yes, indeed.
Those days are gone now. The Redskins are gone from our life, it seems, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah, it is sad because back when Jack owned them, there was personality. There were expectations that you were free to have because they would meet them on a regular basis. I wasn't a Redskins fan when I came here. I'm still not that much of a Redskins fan. I was an Eagle fan back then.
I knew that.
But I always have been a LA Rams and a Packers fan. But here's the deal. Joe Gibbs came in here and turned this town around, didn't he?
Wasn't it wonderful?
Turned it up on. Hey, how joyous was it to ride down Connecticut Avenue or Good Hope Road and, feel the camaraderie and the spirit that they brought to the town. Real quick, I used to live at 10th and C Northwest, the first house I bought in this town.
That in Shaw?
No, it's in Northeast D.C., right?
Northeast D.C.
They call it Capitol Hill now. Back then it was still the
everything that breathes.
But it was, 10 blocks from RFK. I used to walk to the games, RFK. I can't tell you how many times I have walked home, and it's a one-way street going west. How many times I've walked home, people would stop their cars at, 11th and C, and get out, and the people would come out of their houses, and people would be passing bottles around, and they'd be passing other things around too. And everybody was having a party in the streets of D.C. because we beat Dallas,
Right.
We beat the Cardinals. Anyway,
it was universal, Jim.
It was universal, and what a tonic it was for a city that was going through all kinds of grief and hell.
You lived through it, babe. Oh, my God.
We are, a lot of people who are here now, and God bless them. I mean, it's good for them that they weren't here back in a time where there were neighborhoods and streets that nobody wanted to drive down after the sun went down. Remember they used to roll this town up at sundown?
Absolutely,
and nobody
baby.
was out because it was dangerous.
I wouldn't go there with the chief of police in some of those places.
Absolutely right. And I used to ride in, with police cars just to, see what was going on. And when cops went into certain neighborhoods, they would tense up, and they would have their hands on the thing. Deal now is, what a wonder it is to drive down Martin Luther King Avenue, 6 o'clock in the evening, and see all kinds of people, including young white couples pushing a baby carriage and leading their dog along the street in a neighborhood where nobody wanted to be 20 years ago.
Jim, the whole thing has been such a great revolution in our town. We're going to take another break here, Jim. This is part 2 with Jim Vance.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to Our Town.
Welcome back to Our Town. This is part 2 with Jim Vance. This is Andy Ockershausen. Things that we're talking about before you arrived was the 50th or the 40th anniversary of the Hanafi situation and the hostages. And we had Maurice Cullinane, who was then chief of police, and what went on in those days. It's 50 or 40 years ago.
Remember it well. That's the one, by the way, that got Max to ABC. Because that's the one, I almost remember his name, Khalifa.
Max Robinson?
Yeah. Max was at Channel 9. Max is the one that was called in to assist in the negotiations
with
to end that thing. Remember they took over B'nai B'rith and they took, shot, what's his name in the district building? Marion got shot in a district building. And, it was a terrible time in this city. My recollection, another terrible time for me, was 3 years earlier in 74 when some guys took over the cell block in the federal courthouse, took hostages, lawyers and others. And
that was Uncle Sam at that time, right? It was a federal courthouse.
Oh, yeah, it's federal district courthouse down on Constitution Avenue. But anyway,
yeah,
I got called in on that one and got locked in that building in the courthouse for 4 days trying to cover that story, and was asked to help negotiate an end to that, which I did and which I have always regretted to this day.
That was a siege, correct?
It was a siege, but what happened is I got closer to the story than I was comfortable with, number one, and I was uncomfortable with it because I was there just to tell people what happened, not to be part of the story. And I got caught up in the emotion of it all, the desire for it to end, the commitment to help the federal marshals and others, federal officials who were trying to end it without bloodshed. But I still should not have gotten involved in that, in my view.
Right.
As a journalist.
You learned from that,
but I
of
did.
course.
Can I tell you how I got there?
You didn't want to be the story.
No, I did not want to be the story, and ended up being part of it, and I regret that. But let me tell you what I don't regret is how I got in there. Got in there. They took it over, I think it was like on a Wednesday. And, that was the lead, and that was what everybody was covering. And nobody had any information. After the 6 o'clock show, I went out to have a cigarette, and one of the interns came out and said, "Vance, there's a phone call for you." And I'm like, "Who?" Told me it was the guy holding hostages in a cell block. And it's like, how did he get on? And the kid said, I hope he's the president of some network somewhere. He said, because I called him. I looked in the phone book and found a number for the cell block. The cell block's in. I said, my man, you're going to go far. But I went in, and the guy who was holding the hostages had the gun, was on the phone, and because he wanted to talk, he wanted to go on TV. But he also wanted to tell me what a tool of the media and a punk and a sellout and all those other kinds of things I was.
He's going to beat you up.
Because I want, to work for Channel 4. And I'm like, after a while, I don't want to take any more of this person. It's like, dude, you don't know me, and I will kick your butt, if you keep on like this. And anyway, it ended up, you come down here now, and you and I will throw down, is what he said to me, and I'll kill you. And I said, you'll take your shot. So, and then I said, but I can't get in. And he said, I'll get you in. And he called Jim Palmer, the U.S. Marshal for the district. And Palmer called and said, Vance, what the hell is going on? I said, I'm going to kick that dude's ass. And he said, if you'll let me in. And he said, okay, I'll let you in, but two things. One, you're not going down there to kick his ass because he might kick yours. And two, once you're in, the doors are locked, you can't get out. So I was in there for 4 days with Marion Barry's first wife, before he married her, Mary, and a DJ in town who also was in there. But anyway, that was a most interesting time. Real quick.
There's nothing quick with you, Vance.
When I got home, because this is interesting to me in terms of neighborhoods.
Right.
And how, for any of us, Andy, in this business, if we treat people with respect and we give people the impression through the air that we are among them and not trying to, be above them or any other kind of thing, they will respond. I was driving then the old Austin Healey Mark III, the little British car with a top, raggedy old thing. When that thing was finally over, 4 days later, because I hadn't slept in 4 days, I lived at 10th and C Northeast, and I came home and parked the car around the corner from my house on 11th Street, and my house was here around the corner. And I was so tired, top was down, because this was summertime. The top was down, and I went in and went right to sleep. And hours later, there's a knock on the door. There were 3 little girls in the house at the time. Somebody said, Daddy, what's his name? I forget the guy's name, Killer Joe, whatever, is here for you at the door. And I went down, what's up? He's one of the thugs in the neighborhood. And he had in his hand a tape recorder, a camera, and I forget what else, 2 or 3 different items that I had just left on the seat of the car because I was just dead tired. I just wanted to go to sleep. And he said, Miss Vance, you left this in your car. You crazy? Don't you know these suckers around here will steal your stuff? What's wrong with you? And I said, well, why didn't you steal it? And he looked at me with this puzzled look on his face, and he didn't know what to say. He was like, "Here, move," call me, and take your stuff, and walked away because he was trying to figure out why didn't I steal it?
Yeah, but you were important to the hood, though. They liked you.
The funny thing was, we got along so well. Not along so well. I was part of that neighborhood. I lived there. My kids, rode their bikes up and down the street, and we, hung out together. It was respect. Is all it was. And it's an old lesson, Andy.
Listen, Vance, you still are so respected by downtown and in town and our town. And we're going to take another break here, Jim.
Okay.
I love that story about the hostages.
Cool.
Are you still promising yourself or your spouse to get your will updated and a good basic estate plan in place? Are you finally ready to make sure you don't leave a mess behind for your family to clean up? Give me just 2 hours and I'll show you how. I'm attorney Mike Collins, host of radio's Legally Speaking show. Come to my seminar and I'll teach you what you need to know about wills, trusts, taxes, probate, how to keep your money in your family. Register now at MikeCollins.com and I'll even waive the tuition. That's MikeCollins.com.
Hi, Tony Sybil here to tell everybody about our newest restaurant over off New York Avenue. It's called Ivy City Smokehouse, 1356 Oakey Street Northeast, right next to the Heck Company warehouse. It is terrific, and we have the only seafood smoker in the District of Columbia. So when you go to your grocery stores or your delis, ask for Ivy City products. 202-529-3300 or ivycitysmokehouse.com.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen. Brought to you by Best Bark Communications.
This is Andy Ockershausen. This is Our Town. We're talking about our hood, our neighborhood. At one time, Jim and I were neighbors in Spring Valley, and I didn't see a lot of him, but I heard a lot of him with his cars and motorcycles. It's such a big part of our town because you use those vehicles in our town. Everybody knew Jim Vance.
Yes, well, Andy, I'll tell you, those bikes were and remain therapy for me. I don't, do drugs or gamble or chase women anymore and all of those kind of things. And so in order to chill out, it's the bikes that I use on any given day. Don't do it so much now, but back in the day, you know where White's Ferry is?
Oh, yeah.
Potomac? If they were making me crazy at the office at RC, because at Spring Valley, I was 5 minutes from the station.
Yeah.
Go home, get on a bike, take that run out River Road and then back whatever those roads are back there to White's Ferry, sit on one of those benches, watch the ferry go back and forth a couple times, and then go back to work and just fortified. Every year I have for the last 20 or so years gone somewhere. We've done the entire country.
You're world class.
Several times. Oh, yeah.
You've been to Sturgis? Have you done all that out west?
Sturgis many, but we ride to Sturgis. We've been to Sturgis 3 times. We were there last year, as a matter of fact, in Sturgis. But we ride all the time. Used to ride, and you remember this name, I know so many people, Pete Wysocki.
Oh my.
Number 50, with the Redskins, one of the crazy dudes that was... Pete used to lead the wedge. Remember on the kickoff team or on the punt team? And he was the one that would dive in head
He would
first.
say, I'm Polish. What else do you expect?
What he expected me. I know. I've heard him say that many times. But Pete's one of the guys that I learned an awful lot from about bikes because he was on a bike before I was. And when we hooked up, I remember one time we went to way up beyond Montreal, Laval, Canada, something like that. And I spent a lot of time watching Pete and how he rode, because I never took lessons, but I learned by watching, how people I respected rode. What a hell of a guy, man. We certainly, I'll speak for myself, really miss him. Because Pete was a down-to-earth guy, funny as he could possibly be.
Maybe as funny as anybody without really working at it.
Nah,
Pete.
He didn't try.
And he loved this dog. Remember, he was raising bulldogs.
Bulldogs,
Oh, my God. And developing that. But, there's so many special people, Jim, and you're fortunate to have known them all, and particularly the people you work with, the people that surrounded you in our town. It's been a great life for you and for us and for all. We miss you in Spring Valley.
Well, thank you.
You moved up from there, of course.
Well, how do you move up from Spring Valley? You kidding me? Moved out from there. But not up. But, yes, there were there has been a great many people who have been so important to my life at so many different levels and have meant so much to me. One of the things that I try to make a point of doing is sharing with people, we're either here or elsewhere especially, is how special Washington is. And by Washington, I really do mean the DMV. It is a special place, and not because of the Lincoln Memorial or the Washington or the Jefferson or the Library of Congress, but because of so many really wonderful people that have lived here over the years, some of whom, are gone now. But man, you can remember some absolutely... Maury Siegel, for goodness sake.
My man.
Mo Siegel. Mo worked, I had the pleasure of working with Mo
I remember.
for years at RC when he was our sports guy back in the day. Marion Barry. There's not another city in the country where you're going to find a guy, like Marion Barry. Petey Green, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
In the whole world.
A performer.
Yeah,
Great performer.
Absolutely right. But a guy, who, by virtue of his will and his determination, his focus and his discipline, took himself from, like Jesse used to say, from the outhouse to the White House. Wonderful human being.
The street guy.
This total street guy who never lost his street creds.
I know it.
But
And
who
they
rose
loved it.
to some considerable heights. Anyway, guys like, and so many others who are just absolutely wonderful people. I think of Wes Unseld, who was on that last and only
Wesley.
championship team that we had, and then who stayed here all of these years. But just a wonderful, decent human being and a great guy to be around. And it's a shame, that more people didn't know Wes. The West that was not the basketball figure and the basketball force. But anyway, you
Great
can go on
human
and on
being.
and on. You and
Oh,
I
my
could sit
God.
there all day long calling names, but just wonderful people in this town. Let me say one final thing. You're included in that. Now, you're sitting up here and we're talking about me. The name of the game here and anywhere else in life is who survives, who hangs in there, who stays on top. I have known you for damn near 50 years myself. I know there are other
The
folks
good
in
and the
town,
bad
the
days,
good and
Jim.
the bad. And I've had my bad too,
Right.
believe me. But the deal is, not only you're still here. And you're still doing what you've been doing so well.
And love it.
And isn't that the key, Andy?
Sure it is. That's
Isn't
what it's
that the
all
key?
about. You were talking about making a lot of money was always important.
That's good.
Because we wanted to live.
Yeah.
But the association with the people and the people in our business, how fortunate we were that we're still here.
Exactly.
And we're still active. You're more active than anybody. Except I miss you at 11 o'clock. But
I don't miss 11 o'clock. I got to tell you that.
our guys used to say, we love radio, but we don't work on Saturday.
Right.
But we tried to build a radio station of friendly Washington people and part of our town, and it worked. And the day is gone, though.
Yeah.
Thank God your world still exists.
Well-
and there's still, we love it, and we watch it, because it's part of our town.
Thank you, Andy. And I feel a part of this. And, I am, when I'm asked now where you're from, I am as inclined to say D.C. as I am Philly. Because I've been here, like I said, almost 48 years. And I was in Philly for 27. I came here when I was 27 years old. So I've been twice as long here as I was in Philly. So I'm inclined to say I'm from D.C.
And I'm glad
okay
you
with
said
that.
something that we tried to establish. We call the program our town, but we consider Annapolis our town. We consider Vienna, Virginia our
Exactly.
town. We consider the South as our town.
Exactly.
We consider everything within our signal.
Within our
is our
signal.
town.
That's what the
Right?
key is, right?
And in your case, the TV is all over. Everybody knows. There's several words you can say about people, and you don't have to explain it. You can say Sonny. Everybody knows who you're talking
Right away.
about.
Right
you can
away.
say Regardi. You don't need a first
Right
name.
away,
You can say
you know-
Vance. You don't have to elaborate.
Right.
That's
got
a
it.
great thing for our town.
And I am so grateful for I'm serious as a heart attack, for having the opportunity to be here long enough and to establish the connection that I've been able to establish here by virtue of that longevity and, a few other things as well.
glad.
What a blessing it has been. And that's why I make the point, all the time, my business has changed drastically. It is not the same. And it's not the one that I fell in love with. But I still love doing what I do. every day. And I can still see
People
the joy
depend on
in you
that,
too. Huh?
Vance. The people depend on you.
Well, cool.
They do. You're
I'm
Jim
glad.
Vance.
And I will remain so on the air or off the air,
You're
whatever
you.
the case may
Ain't
be.
it, ain't it a great life?
And isn't that the key to it as well?
Exactly
Be
what.
yourself.
I got fortunate enough to be married to, she was and Janice is at WMAL 32 years.
All right.
I was there 36 years, but between us, we're over 70 years. We love what our town is about.
Can I
And
say
that's why
something
we
to you?
have a chance to bring it. It was her idea to bring these ideas together and all the people. Because it's all about people, Jim. It ain't about nothing but the people.
And I got one final thing to say to you. You married up. Look at her smile, because she knows it too, and always has.
She's the greatest.
You're married up,
This has been a
Andy.
wonderful, wonderful conversation.
Thank you, man.
With Jim Vance. And he'll have many more years on the air, I hope. But I remember mostly about Jim when he's on his bike and he had a some kind of bandana around his head.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "That's our man."
Right
I don't give a shit.
Can't ride without it.
I'm getting out of town.
Right on. Right
This
on.
has been our town. It's been a wonderful opportunity with Jim Vance, and we hope that you remain part of our town forever.
Thank you.
We
man.
need you, Jimmy.
I appreciate the time. I really do.
Happy days,
This has been
baby.
delightful. Thank you, Janice.
Thank
It's
you.
been wonderful.
You've been listening to Our Town, Season 2, presented by Geico, our hometown favorite, with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. Drop us a line with your comments or suggestions. See us on Facebook or visit our website at ourtowndc.com. Our special thanks to Ken Hunter, our technical director, and WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. for hosting our podcast. And thanks to Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance.